Are you guys ready? Because this one's going to be big. I wanted to talk about what this student got right, got wrong, and I wanted to show them how they could preserve this style they're going for, which is a very anime style, and add realism to it, and how to do that. And I will be going through a lot of changes really quickly. And hopefully I'm explaining as I go, but sometimes the changes are so fast I can't go in depth and explain everything, but I will do my best. And I have a lot of changes to make, so I will state the change I'm making, and you can take that keyword and look it up in my video history, and you can find a more in-depth video on that topic. But let's just start anywhere. I'm just going to start anywhere. Okay, so the issue with this is that you are trying to add realism and anime at the same time. We can do that. That is possible. It is possible to add realism and anime together. But there are some things that we can't add. We can't add full anime and we can't add full realism. We have it. And once we're having both of them, we're halving, we cut both in half and we combine what's left. What's left of anime is the features and scale of anime. Big eyes, small nose, small mouth. Sorry, let me do that again. What's left of realism is the shadows, the core shadows, the volume, and symmetry anatomy. So those are the main fundamentals that we leave behind that we combine together as one. So this little bump you have in the jawline, yes, we have these in the real world, but this is not anime template. So that's how I'm going to be kind of like throwing these out, these concepts that I'm covering, is what is anime leftover, what is the half that is anime, and what is the half that is realism. All right, so the neck is too wide, and so I need to make sure that the neck fits the anime template, which is generally thinner. All righty. So this is the first liquefy pass. I'm trying my best to keep it all in one liquefy. Okay. Then we've got the basic anime shape, which you had a lot of. So we have the thickness of the neck taken care of. Then we've got the placement of the eyebrows. So before I do that, actually, I need to get the size of the head right. The head was too small for that body. It wasn't feeling like it was like it was shaved off. Do you see that? It felt like it was missing hair volume and cranial size. Then there's the eyebrows. The eyebrows are not symmetrical and they're not sitting on the brow bone. The brow bone is the highest peak of the forehead in the brow area. Obviously not the whole forehead, but the brow bone area, the highest peak of it. And I want to make them symmetrical, flat on the insides. The far eyebrow follows the curve of the nose. So what's the nose doing? This curve right here. It follows the curve of the nose. Sorry if I'm zoomed out. I have to be zoomed out or else I won't be able to do what I need to do and see what I need to see. Zooming out is really important. So the start of this eyebrow is good now, but we need to drag the arc to the high point and make sure it wraps around the whole eye. You can't have half an eyebrow. The eyebrow follows the size of the eye. Write that back to me. And we make sure it travels all the way to the temple. The temple and the structure of the head, that's the leftover of the realism side. So we have an anatomically human head, but we have anime scale to the features, meaning that we have big eyes, small nose, small mouth. So the head is still realistic. The head is still a skull. Okay, so these are the changes so far. We're making the head look more realistic. This bump in her jawline looked like it aged her a lot. It made her look old or masculine. Okay, and then we have the corners of the eyes. The inner corners of the eyes for an anime eye, per the anime template, what's left of the anime is that the inner corner is lower than the outer corner. Outer corner is higher. Inner corner is lower. These changes alone are improving the piece. But obviously I'm going to be pushing it more as I go. Then we have the size of the nose. If you're going to give us anime eyes, do not give us a realistic size to the nose. A realistic size to the nose is bigger, more unique shape to the nose. All of those are things that happen in the real world. Once again, before, after, before, after. We're adhering to the template of the anime while remembering the structure of the skull. Soon we'll remember the structure of the skull plus its core shadow. So the realism will continue. The anime template will stop. It'll just, eventually the anime will stop its influence. Realism does the rest to the finish line. The mouth needs to be more realistic. So I need to grab the mouth and make it sit closer to the symmetry line. So it looks like it's sagging less. And I want to give the face a little bit more of a delicate smile. Okay, before, after, before, after. Eyebrows now wrap around the eyes. The eyes now have a more distinct shape, an anime shape, that almond shape. The inner corners are structured and placed where they need to go. The inner corners are in the right spot, which is lower than the outer corner. The nose is smaller or less wide, let's say. Less realistic nose, more template nose. The head shape is more rounded and clear. And the mouth is less wide, less sagging, and smaller. And I'm just going to make the cupid's bow of the mouth follow the cupid's bow, the septum of the nose. Okay, so a lot of stuff is going on. Okie dokie. So for the lips, you can make them even smaller, but it's really up to you. So before, after. Right now, I wouldn't say this is anime per se. I would say that it is cartoony. I would say that it is more of a caricature. So anime, it's a pretty general term for like manga style. It can be really anything at this point. But in this case, we are just basing it off the shape of the eye is why I'm saying anime. And then I'm just making sure both eyes have the same structure. Cheekbone looks good. So that's the very first pass. So we have all of that stuff in place. What's next? So what's next would be the skin tone. I think the skin tone is too yellow. And it's just not a realistic skin tone. So what I'm gonna do is try to, I don't even know what that lasso was. What was I doing? Okay. So I am just going to shift away from yellow, shift more towards a standard skin tone, really just something that looks like it's got some blood to it, that doesn't look too washed out or single color or monochromatic. If the skin tone you're drawing looks monochromatic, you're doing it wrong. It kind of looks like Belle, doesn't it? And so I am shifting the skin tone more towards red, the red side of the slider, the cool side. Because now that's how we can get it to match the hair, which has purple in it, the background, which has purple in it. So now we're matching the tones. So before, after. Before it looked a little bit like it looked jaundice, really. It looked a bit sickly. And after, starting to look a little less sickly. Okay, so now I'm going to start blending, but before I do, actually, I'm going to block. Instead, I'll just block, because I really do think it needs blocking. So the blocking that's happening here is the same blocking you would do for a realistic face. Has nothing to do with anime. Form has nothing to do with anime. If you're doing anime hybrid realism, the form is not part of that style. The form is separate. a core shadow is a core shadow. A core shadow doesn't care what style you have. So block for the cheek, block for the lower eyelid, a block for the inner corner. I am getting rid of the line of the nose. Some of you are afraid of doing that, but I am just going to use any nearby value to do that. Making sure I have an edge left over. I'm blocking in the top of the nose, blocking in the nostril, getting rid of this, and blocking in the side of the nostril with some kind of value. A big brush is a good replacement for a line if you're confused, if you don't know how to replace your lines. Okay. And then I'm going to add a waterline, which is just a quick pink waterline. I'm going to get rid of, I guess I forgot what pink is. I'm going to get rid of that lower lash outline that you have there, because we're trying to make it realistic. So the waterline really makes eyes realistic. I'm going to thin out the inside of the lash line right here to make it look more natural. And I'm going to add any value that's slightly darker than the skin for the, okay. For the eye socket. Okay, so we need an eye socket. That's anatomy that you're missing. I don't think this was a stylistic choice, because it's just sometimes a student just doesn't know there's anatomy there. Okay. And then I am going to add a block for the upper eyelid, for the upper lip. A block for the upper lip. A block for the chin. This dimpling in the mouth should not be a line, it should be a shadow. The line will age her. So just a shadow is enough. And then we want to add a shadow for the lash line. This is an important shadow to add. Trying to preserve their style, and I'm just trying to find their style really. And then I'm going to thicken the lashes on the outside as they have. I'm going to keep blocking. The way you've disconnected the upper and lower, connected the upper and lower eyelid, you shouldn't do that. You should disconnect them. They should have their own areas. So a shadow for the lower eyelid right here. I will shrink the eyes eventually. I feel like they're too big. The realism does start to take over, and we don't take most of the template with us. I'm going to point the end them at a point for the lower eyelid. And then I'm going to remove the outline around the lips. We don't need that. All we need is a darker upper lip and a dark half of the lower lip. That's all we really need. Okay, and then I'm going to block in the space right under the lip, half the chin. All right, and then we're blocking the shadow of the neck, on the neck, the shadow of the chin. All right, and then we're going to add in one of those cheek highlights there, some cheekbone shadow there. And then we are just going to add a little bit of shadow there. Oh yeah, Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Anyone? Free Palestine? Can I interest you in a Free Palestine? If you don't like the sound of that, well, I'm sorry. Don't know how to help you. And I'm going to grab this highlighter right here and put it under the eyebrow. And put this under this eyebrow. Okay, so we did a lot of stuff. So now we can blend. So we're blending the fattier areas first. And so I'm blending the cheek out. And the cheek is the squishiest part of your face, so that's why I'm starting with it. That's my biggest smudging brush. And I'm blending the chin area, which isn't the second fattiest, but it's nearby. It's still that softer transition, especially on a female. And then I'm blending next the forehead, the brow bone area, all my leftover blocks from those value assignments. I'm blending out the nose, but only the negative space of the nose. I'm not blending everything. I don't know if this person was Asian. I really can't tell, Evelyn. I can't tell. If I had known it was Asian, I would keep the monolid. But I'm not 100% sure, so I'm just going for that template universal look, which can be anything really. It can be Mediterranean, it could be white. It's hard to know for me from where I'm standing. The next thing I'm going to do is assign the darkest dark for the dark spots. The dark spots are the 6 dark spots of the face, which are really important. You've got the corner of the mouth. The other one is as well, but it's a 3/4 view, so we won't see it. The nostril. Obviously, you have all the dark spots of the eye intact. And then I'm going to just finish up some more areas here. So we're not done. We want to make a lot of this feel a little bit more organic, meaning that we have the anime template. It's there. I wouldn't call it anime. I'm not sure what to call it. Cartoon. I really don't know. Animation. Like, who knows? That's why I say the word anime, because I don't know what else to use. What other term? So for now, I'm just going to say that. So now I'm going to pull back. Now that I added realism all around for the features, I'm going to pull back. Oh, cool. She looks good with red hair. I'm going to pull back the sizes of the template of the anime style, meaning I'm going to shrink the eyes ever so slightly. I'm going to increase the size of the nose just a little bit. And for that lip, I'm just going to make the placement for it a little higher. So just getting rid of that kind of blown up look to the features. So now I'm going to blend. I'm going to make things look more organic, as I said, which means that when things look realistic, they're blended together. Things just have a morphed look together. I'm not sure what word to use. A kind of connection between all of the little islands of features. So I'm blending the eyebrow with the face, meaning I'm making the eyebrow look hairier without drawing hair. And it starts with the smudge brush. And sometimes I used a pencil brush to kind of direct the sheep. I don't know. Direct the sheep of smudging where they're supposed to go, like a shepherd. Meaning that I don't want to smudge it everywhere. I want to smudge it in a direction. So I use my brush to paint and then smudge and then paint and then keep smudging and directing the sheep to where they need to go, which is this dip of the eye socket. Sheep of smudge. So you see that? So I don't want to just make a big blob. Sometimes when you guys smudge, you just do this. When I'm smudging, I'm doing this. That's what I mean by making the sheep go through the gate. Okay. And I'm just continuously smudging, trying to evolve the eye socket so it feels more realistic. Next thing I'm going to smudge is the inner corner. Oopsie. The inner corner of the lower eyelid. Okay. So this is like that anime filter on Snapchat. You know, like it tells you, hey, do you want to look like your anime? You know, but it's really not anime, but it just makes your eyes bigger, but it's called anime. So it's hard to describe, you know, what it is, what's the cartoony hybrid style we're going for, but it's there. And I'm adding that dark spot of the corner of the lip and I'm smudging it out so the lip can feel like it's part of the face. This is the part of the template where we have skin and how skin folds and moves like skin. You see that? And I'm adding that same dark spot under the lower lip. Under the lower lip. Okay. And then I'm adding a little bit of eyelid space for the eyelid. Again, I don't know how wide these eyelids are. So I'm just going to stay safe and just provide one, but it's very small. And I'm just extending that shape to feel a little bit more anime. I'm trying to keep that big highlight you added. Then I'm going to smudge the lower part of the nostril so it feels like a cavity. For a hybrid anime face, don't overdo the nose. The nose should pretty much just be out of the way. And I am adding a shadow for the lower half of the nose. And then I'm just darkening just over here for the eyebrow. And I'm just adding a bit of texture for this eyebrow. And I want to illustrationate it. I want to add illustration elements to it. I want to illustrate. Okay, I'm going to quit now. I want to make the background communicate with the values of the object, which is a character, and I want to pick a background value that isn't just a plain old color. I want it to do something else. But I will do that after I'm done the main changes so you guys can get a better idea of where the anime started, where the realism started, where the realism stopped, where the anime stopped. I'm adding more shadow off this big lash line. Tons of mascara. It's going to cast a shadow on the rest of the eye. And then I'm going to get dodge tool or anything, and I'm going to illuminate the lower half closer to the pupil. The lower half of the iris. So it can feel like there's light really sitting on it. And I'm going to jump into liquify and clean up some stuff. Does the lid follow the contour of the eye, or is it influenced by something else as well as expression? Which lid, upper or lower? So as you can see, all of these lids are following the contour of the eyeball. Yes, so they follow the contour of the eyeball. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have more of a squared look. That's when you would trust your reference. But this, if you are doing a hybrid version where you have hybrid realism, then you wouldn't really, sorry, 1 minute. You wouldn't really do those unique things that happen in real life. You would try to stick to the template. The template has a very universal shape to the eye. And I'm blocking in the highlighters of the nose, which are just 2 blocks, a big one and a small one, using the yellow-white highlighter for the skin. I'm blocking in the inner corner of the eye with a highlighter. And I'm blocking that lower area, blending only half the brushstroke, leaving some of that sharpness there. I'm blending in the majority of the mouth. I'm adding a block for the Cupid's bow. And I'm finishing the rest of the face, flipping the canvas really quickly to test my symmetry. And then I am going to get rid of this line for the chin. You don't need it. Once you have edges, you don't need lines. Write that back to me. Once you have edges, you don't need lines. Do you miss the line? No, we have the edge now. And look at the realism we got because of that. Then now that I flipped the canvas, I'm going to connect the shadow of the cheekbone into the hair. Shadow of the temple into the hair. It's kind of like contouring with makeup. Do you see that? Look at the difference, you guys. Really important shadows to help connect the head to the hair. Or connect the face to the head to the hair. And I'm going to blend those away. Just like contouring in makeup. Exactly like contouring in makeup, actually. And then I'm also going to clean up the edge you have here. Just clean up some more edges. Make sure they're nice and sharp. The sharper the edge of the face against the background, whatever it is, hair or whatever, the higher your resolution. The sharper the edges, the higher the resolution of your painting. It just looks high res, even if you're painting with a 1000 by 1000 pixel illustration canvas size. It still looks high res because your edges are crisp, which is exactly what you would look for if you're buying a monitor or a TV. Does it have crisp edges? Okay, and then I clean that up, I clean that up. I'm going to continue with the mouth a little bit more. See these sharp edges? It looks nice. And then I'm merging that down. And I'm just blending away at the lips. So usually the lips are much smaller and the closer we get to anime. So imagine a spectrum. Imagine a spectrum. Here is full anime. Here is full realism. All right, we're somewhere like right here. We can push it to get closer to anime, which means we have to really mess with these sizes, reduce some of the realism, cell shade some of these core shadows, or we can go all the way over here and shrink her eye size, increase her nose size. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a slider and you're sliding on it, and you have to know where you are on this slider. Okay, so I'm just going to try to add a little bit with dodge tool, a little bit of highlight on the lips. And then I'm going to get pure white and find those spots on the face that really glisten. And like on the water lines, on the highest point of any fat bodies, so the fat deposit of the upper eyelid, the lid of the eye, the high point of the cheeks, the high point of the chin, right under the lips, just there. So it's starting to look like Jasmine, but Disney, but sort of anime. Do you see what I'm saying? And then I'm going to just get like a blush brush of some kind. Blush brush. I'm still thinking in makeup. I used to work in makeup. So I'm just gonna get a color brush mode, soft brush, and I'm gonna use that same pink of the lips on the cheeks, on the nose, on the upper eyelid and lower eyelid, and that just makes the skin feel more realistic. And I'm also going to boost the redness in the lips as well. And then finally, I'm just going to do a little bit more liquify, which is just for this eyelid. I got to make sure it looks 3/4 view. Okay, so now that we did all that, what I want to do is just do something else with the hair. The hair doesn't feel like it's doing anything for the illustration. So I want to kind of just add something else happening here. The hair looks like it's stiff. It doesn't feel like hair. And I'm just adding some movement in this hair. I don't want it to look like it's all gelled together. I'm just breaking it apart, showing where there's messier portions of the hair. All right, and then now I'm shrinking my brush and drawing even smaller sections. Wow, that was crap. There we go. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Now I'm just worried about making it a good hairstyle. Now Girly Brack is taking over. Okay. And then I'm just gonna shrink the brush one more time and add the smaller hair. So we always work large to small. That looks a bit messy over there now. And then I'm just going to borrow some of these highlighters you have here and just add these general highlighters on the halfway mark of all the major highlighter points, which is wherever the halfway is before the next bump of the hair, which is the next curve of the hair. The next thing I'm going to do is the rest of the body, which feels a little bit unrealistic as well. So we have an edge here. Either meet that edge with a shadow or start it as a highlight on the other side. Either way, it just doesn't feel natural to have just a line, obviously, because it's just a line. So I'm just going to blend out this general area. Oopsie, wrong layer. And then I'm going to use the same highlighters on the rest of the face. So really blend that chest area. We shouldn't have too many bumps in that general area. I'm going to use these highlighters on both breasts and a little bit on the collarbone just to show some collarbone in that area. She looks like she's a bit on the curvier side, so I'm just going to blend more, have less bone structure. Curvier women don't have too much collarbone visible. It's kind of like a softer look. And I'm just going to get rid of, before I do, I'm going to just completely separate the background now. And I want to choose a background value that helps this, this illustration a little bit. Oops. And locking this layer, I'm just getting rid of this line here. You don't need it anymore. delete that. And delete that. I'm just trying to delete as much lines as possible. Got 20 minutes left. And just over here. Delete that. Okay, so the background value is this really basic purple. So there's like so much you could do. It's insane how much you can do with this. We can just add a simple, a simple value here. I don't know why it's black. Like I'm literally picking white and I'm on gradient. Like method perceptual linear. Fuck. Like, why did they change this? I'm kind of pissed. It's on basics. What? Okay. Kyle, how do I make it do the old thing? Classic gradient. Okay, there we go. I got it. I got it. Okay, so I'm just adding a bit of extra value here. I'm also going to raise the background value a little bit. So we have a bit more brightness. I'm also going to saturate it and then raise it up so that you just have just more vibrance. That background color was a little dull. So like again, before, after, it was just a little gray. So raising the saturation up kind of gave us a little bit more strength. And with that, now that we have a light direction, we kind of gave the background a bit of depth. We can now like make the half that is not looking at the light more clear. So this arm now gets a shadow, but it gets highlighted with a bounce light. So the arm looks three-dimensional. So you don't really lose as much as you think you do when you start following the rules. You get it all back. So if you add a core shadow, you're not losing form, you're getting more form. And you can always make that a more purpley value for the back arm. Actually, let me borrow that one. Okay. We can also darken the scene a little bit more. We can do a lot. Let me just get this neck shadow to be a bit more like a cast shadow. So I'm just adding a bit of shadow here for the collarbones and the upper breast area so it actually has more volume. But the shadow is added with a soft brush. We don't want to use blocking brushes. We use that for male characters, not female characters, unless they're really muscular. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And we're blurring this cast shadow. We don't want it to be sharp, it's a cast shadow. Plus it's a cast shadow on a drawing. So we want it to feel a little bit more, less sharp because we don't want the focus of the eye to go anywhere sharp. That's not the face. So eloquent. And then I'm just going to add those extra hair bands just for wherever the hair is hairing. I want to add some shadow for the hair. So I'm just grabbing that skin shadow on a darkened layer and I'm adding it. Maybe I'll use my sketching brush. I'll add it to the skin under the body of hair, just beside it, because it's blocking out some light. Hair won't look natural if it doesn't have shadow nearby. It'll look like it's just floating in the void outside of time and space. If we want it to look like it's part of this material realm, we have to cast shadows. Objects, matter, casts shadows. Write that back to me. All matter casts a shadow. Unless it's so small that the light ray is like fatter than the matter. Do you know what I'm saying? At that point, it's just not really. But that doesn't matter. For now, for artist's sake, just remember that rule. Then I'm going to blend the hairline up and create a little space there between the hair. And I'm just going to blend that with the skin. The hairline won't look natural unless it's blended into the hairline, into the hair, sorry. Okay. And yeah, so I'm merging that down. And one thing I'd love to do is just darken her. But that's not the original, you know, the thing that the student was going for. So what I can do with the rest of the skin is just make it a little bit more cool now that I know where everything is. So I'm just going to cool down the skin one more time so it matches the rest of the character. Meaning that it was just a little bit on the yellower side before, and I want it to really feel like it's on, you know, the same level as everything else. It's not just some jaundice or something like that. And I believe that's it. So anime realism is possible if you remember that spectrum. And it's not about sacrificing the anime altogether. You're sacrificing some, though. There is a level of it that you aren't getting back. But you're getting realism in place. So that's where the beauty comes from in anime realism, or that hybrid realism, or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. That's why a lot of people love it. That's why it gets so many likes on all the social media art world. Because it just has a charm to it that we all appreciate, because it's got the best of both worlds. It's got the beauty of anime, that beauty template, and, you know, the elf and the ogre type thing. So it's got all the big eyes, small nose, small mouth. And it's got the realism of realism, which is the core shadows and the believability and all that. So I'm just doing some last minute touches that I want to take care of. And there's so much I could do that I want to do. I'm going to just experiment with it really quickly. So one thing I want to do is I want to brighten the background up. And I want to duplicate her again, and lock, and just choose one of these purples. I want it to look a little bit less like kind of basic lighting, and I want it to feel more like a really stylistic lighting. And I'm going to delete wherever I want highlights. This alone looks so pretty, right? Because it's just deliberate. It's a silhouette, which always looks good. And I'm just deleting wherever I feel like there is a lot of light. And I'm deleting all of the highlights. So there's like this indirect light glow coming from this side. And it just feels a little bit more of a stylized studio light or studio environment. Just like that. So we get a bit more of a dark scene, which I think looks really pretty. Just because it's like the background should always be darker. I'm sorry, the background should always be lighter than your character. And so when it is, it just makes sense. So obviously there's this, which is all this, and then you could bring back all of your specular highlights and bring them back on a glow. And all those little miniature highlights here and there, just to make it feel a little bit more glowy. Careful with dodge tool, can be pretty insane. Or this, which is the original artist's decision. I don't think this is a good light environment, because the background, when it's lighter than the object, it adds realism. So if you're going to do anime realism, like, why not do it on a totality? Why not do it with light environment? because light environment is part of realism. Write that back to me. So this is with my version, which I'm going to merge now. And this is the artist's version. So I like the one with the background that's a bit brighter. You can add a lot of stuff that makes this feel a little bit more intense. You don't have to add the specular highlights I added. Like, there's a lot of stuff you could omit in yours. So I just, I really like a background that feels a little bit more like an actual room. It's not just a hollow background. Like, it's got purpose. And then of course there's the before. So it just looks more mature. It's more of a mature artistic choice to do it like this. And then there's all the extra additive stuff, which I always add in. There's a little bit of extra bloom coming in from the top somewhere. And there is some kind of secondary light that you could add. It could be literally anything. This one is my favorite go-to. And it's just a little bit of kind of secondary light to add to the scene to give it a little bit more life. Kind of like an ambient light. And let me try a different color. Maybe purple will just work just fine. That's fine. So, oopsie. So what do you guys think? I'll show you the full before and after in a second. There is also just framing the canvas a little bit more. So just using that same darken value I got earlier and just kind of darkening the lower half of the canvas just to add a little bit more of an atmospheric element. So it's just these two, it's these three elements. It just adds some atmospheric movement. You can take one, you can leave the others. It's really up to you. One that I would keep is just a little bit of brightness at the top, but I'm just showing you these as an option in case you want to add a little bit more. Okay, so that's how you do anime hybrid realism. It's a lot, but it starts with a simple understanding of that spectrum. So before, you had yellow skin, basically. You were choosing very simplistic colors to represent human skin. It looked very sickly, almost like a dying body. We don't have a lot of blood movement in that, and so that's where we get that gray look. Then there's the template of the anime, which is gone because you're trying too hard. You're pushing the spectrum in a really awkward way. You're keeping the size of the eyes, but you're trying to give us a squared look to the eyes. There's the missing portion of the skull, all of that, and then there's the lines that you still have. And then after, we have clear anime influence, clear realism influence. They're two very different things, and I can show you the after without my environmental changes too. So this is the after without the environmental changes that I did. So the background is not brighter than the object. It's just more like a graphic design background. Before, after. So that's really the problem. If there is likeness that you want to capture from your original reference, you have to measure. You have to measure clearly. I obviously don't have your reference, so I don't know how to change it. But I'm working off the template I have. Before, skin tone, realism, no core shadows, lots of lines, anime template not quite there, oversized mouth, big nose, but big eyes, it does not work. You have to pick a side and stick to it. You can't mix and match too much. You have to be very coherent. You have to have the half that is the anime influence, and the rest is all volume and realism and form and contrast and removal of edges and nice clean edge, removal of lines, nice clean edges, and so on. After. So I really like the one with the darker background. I'm going to keep that one. Flatten the image. All right, thank you guys for watching today. This was really, really fun. I love talking about style. Style is always really, really exciting because it's charming. It's fun to look at. It's what the movies recently all have. And realism is charming and fun to look at. So it's really exciting when I get to, in a lab environment, sort of experiment with the different vials and chemistry and just kind of experiment how much more style I can add, how much more realism I can add before I get a good solution. So I love talking about style because there's always a great way to do it. I'm not anti-style. I'm anti-style when learning the fundamentals, but I'm not anti-style in production. I love style. It's beautiful. And I think there's a time and place for you to start studying it after you've learned the rules. It's easy to break them. Style is a breaking of the rules, but you got to learn the rules first before you break them, or else you're just breaking haphazardly, gracelessly, and it's just, it doesn't work. So learn the rules first, learn how they're broken, and then you'll have whatever style your heart dreams of. All right, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.